Good morning. Welcome to this edition of Up to the Minute. I'm Sade Campbell. I serve as the Enrollment Communications and Social Media Manager here at Houston Community College. It's Thursday, June 27th. So happy to be wrapping out the month with you. Pleased to be joined by my co-host, Dr. Natalie Garza. Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning, Sade. It's good to be with you. We are live on the Houston Community College District Facebook page. That's Houston Community College, not HCC. We're also on YouTube, and we are on X, LinkedIn, and on HCCTV at noon, 5, and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday.
All right, you kick things off. You said, listen, I'm gonna make sure people know where to find us.
Of course.
Yes, well, today is Thursday Family Fun Day. Danger and demise await with a fan favorite exhibition at one of Houston's museums. Joining us to talk about such a dun moment, because that is quite the intro, is Nicole Temple, the VP for Education for the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning.
All right, you and Natalie are going to have quite, I guess, with that intro, a dramatic conversation in just a second. But first, we're checking in with Coleman College's Sonography program. Joining us to talk about it today is Elizabeth Ho, the Program Director of Diagnostic Medical Sonography at HCC Coleman College for Health Science. Welcome back to the show, Elizabeth.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you. And, you know, I'm always, every time I have someone come on from Coleman, I'm like, listen, I don't think you realize just how many pathways are available at Coleman College. So many people think about, oh, maybe I can be an LVN, or maybe I can, just those common medical career pathways, when you all have so much. And I've just seen the minds blown of students who walk through the facility. And I think there's probably a common misconception that sonography and an ultrasound are the same thing. So before we do anything else, let's just level set. What is sonography and how does it differ?
Yes, and I think you're correct. A lot of people think of healthcare, they only think of doctors and nurses, but there's actually a whole bunch of the other healthcare professionals that, the general public doesn't really recognize. And so for us, the general public always think that we're ultrasound instead of we're sonography. Sonography is a medical term. We use ultrasound, which is high sound, high frequency sound wave to produce a diagnostic image. And so ultrasound is basically an imaging modality that we can use to image the internal organs in the body. And so sonography and ultrasound are interchangeable, but we want people to know us as sonography, and we're actually sonographer and not ultrasound technicians. We're sonographers who are the healthcare professional who takes images using ultrasound.
Got you. So they take images using. So what is the output of, so when you have an ultrasound, it's not, the output is not always an image. Is that kind of where the distinction is being made?
It's the technicality or the physics component behind the ultrasound machine. So the transducer is what we hold on the right hand when we scan patients. That thing produces sound waves. And so the sound travels through the body, and when it comes back to the transducer, it converts into electrical signals, and the computers convert that into images that we can see. And so that's what on the screen, what we see is actually ultrasound images of the internal organs of the body. So we're actually taking pictures, and we are looking live, real time internal organs.
Got you. And when do you know when is it the decision to say, hey, you need an ultrasound or you need to use a sonography technology?
Well, it all depends on what they're looking at. For an example, there's different multiple imaging modality, which includes X-ray, nuclear medicine, mammography, MRI, CT. So each of those modalities focus on different organs. With ultrasound, sound wave cannot travel through a dense material such as bone. So we cannot use ultrasound through bones. So if, let's say, a patient's break a bone, then they have to go through X-ray, where that specializes in looking at the bone organs. The organs such as lungs and brains that usually go through CT. So each imaging modality has its specialty in what it's looking for. For ultrasound, we're specialized in looking at organs. So there's different areas. Now, when the general public only thinks that ultrasounds can be used for obstetric for babies, scanning babies only, but technically we scan really from head to toe. We look at brain for brain hemorrhages, small parts like thyroid, breast, scrotals, abdominal organs. We can use it for the heart because it's an organ, abdominal and male and female pelvises. Now, with higher technology, we can look at tendons and ligaments for sport injuries, and we can also look at a blood vessel. Imaging with ultrasound. Ultrasound is the only imaging modality that could look and measure the velocity of blood flow inside a blood vessel. You know how small that vessel is? We can actually see that and measure the blood flow. So it's very unique and it's very interesting. And the best part is that we can see it live, where it's not just taking picture and then we look at it later. When we look at it on the screen, that's exactly what we see. So it's a very unique field to be in.
And I'm sure there are so many techniques and not just using the equipment, but also identifying what they are seeing. So what can students expect from the program?
Yes. So when they come into the program, they will expect to learn a lot. Like you say, they have to know the general anatomy, pathophysiology, but they have to know the pathology of it too. And then on top of that, they have to understand how it looks like sonographically as an ultrasound image. So students will expect to learn a lot, to know, really to study like a physician's, because they have to investigate and scan. When they look in the patient's body, they have to figure out where the pathology, where if something's wrong, where the mass is, and report that mass back to the radiologist, especially knowing exactly where it is and everything, so that the physician can use that information and determine what's the next step for the patients. They have to work hard, study hard, and they will be working with supportive staff, faculties, and they will be sent out to the clinic to learn from real professionals. So they will have to work really hard and study really hard when they're in the program.
I can only imagine, and we have 2-year programs. We have even shorter term programs here at the institution. But like you said, this seems like a lot that a student has to be able to take on a role that supports doctors so much. So how long is the program, and how much can students expect to have to fund their education to get this credential?
So we have 2 routes. We have an associate degree program and an advanced technical certificate. So we have always had advanced technical certificate, but in the most recent very year, we started to accept associate degree students. And so now anybody can really join our program. The associate degree is 2 years. It takes a semester of prerequisites, and the program itself is about 16 months. So within the 16 months, believe it or not, we teach students all parts from scanning everything. And so students really have to learn and expect to grasp the materials as much as they can. But because how we built out our curriculum, we feel very confident that we prepare them for the workforce once they graduated from this program.
And I think you said there's a practicum where they go learn on site at these hospitals as well.
Yes, so we are, that's the perk for our program, is that we are affiliated with the Texas Medical Center. In addition to that, we are affiliated with the different hospitals around the Houston area. So students are able to are exposed to hospital environment, clinical environment, obstetric environment. They get to learn from top-notch sonographers to learn all the exams throughout the whole body. So it's a great field, and it's a really good program for students to be in.
It is. I think that was the perfect pitch. In addition to saying fall registration is open, if you are interested and are hearing something and saying, man, I really didn't realize that was a pathway for me, be sure to check the details after the show. Look up Elizabeth Ho and contact her. She is our program director of the Diagnostic Medical Sonography program here at Houston Community College at the Coleman College for Health Sciences. We'll have information posted after the show, so you can make sure you get in time for fall. Thanks so much for joining us, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, up next after a commercial break, We will talk to our next guest.
When I grow up, I want to work in a lab to build robots.
From classroom to career, we're with you every step. Register for real-world education at hccs.edu.
That one day at PE when they were like yelling at me, and then you just linked arms with me. I don't think you know how much like that helped me. I finally like knew that I had somebody.
We're back with Nicole Temple, VP of Education for the Houston Museum of Natural Science, and she is our Thursday Family Fun Day guest. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good. So I'm so excited to hear about what you have going on over there. You caught our attention with the phrase, danger and demise await guests. With the death of by natural causes. So can you tell us about this exhibit, starting first with when it opens?
It opens to members tomorrow, and it opens to the general public on Saturday, and we're open from 9 until 6.
Okay. And is this a brand new exhibit that y'all are introducing?
No, I would say it is a familiar favorite, but we have sprinkled in some new elements. Basically, we brought it back because of the number of times that we were asked on social media or through the webmaster or somehow, when is this coming back? And so we said, okay. So it's coming back. So when you're going through, we've sort of rearranged some things and we've added some things. So even people who worked in the exhibit last time were like, this wasn't here last time, was it? Just because it's in a different flow. So you'll still get to find some new elements that you hadn't seen before.
And can you give us a handful examples of what guests might expect from the exhibit?
Yeah, lots of interactives. I'm very much a believer in button pushing and lift flapping. So lots of interactives. You will have a couple opportunities to do a little bit of forensic sleuthing. We have some live animals. We have some things that are both familiar and fatal. So things that you might encounter in your everyday, but as Paracelsus says, it's the dose that makes the poison. So, for example, lima beans have cyanide in them, but you would have to eat an absurd amount of lima beans in order for them to have any deleterious effects on you.
Can you tell us, I heard that there was something about Van Gogh in the exhibit.
Yes, so we have what we're referring to as the art of death, and all of the pigments that used to be used for painting, they were ground up rocks, ground up minerals. They were things that were found naturally that were brightly colored. So for example, cinnabar makes a really lovely red, and cinnabar's got mercury in it. They would mix it with different things, like one of them would be albumin from like egg whites, and you would mix that in order to get the pigment to stick. But all of these famous painters that you think of would dip their paintbrush, they would paint, and then they would suck on the tip of their paintbrush to go back for more paint. So they were getting like small doses of heavy metal poisoning, and then they got what's called painter's colic. So it was things that range from like having a stomach ache or having headaches all the way through like hallucinations and death, depending on how much of what metals you were ingesting. So Van Gogh was probably not mentally well just on his own in his regular life. But then when you add the heavy metal poisoning to that, then that causes an effect. And then he also was on digitalis, which is a medication made from foxglove, which is part of the belladonna family, like the deadly nightshades. And that also caused some effects. So basically he had heavy metal poisoning, particularly lead, and lead makes you have like halos in your vision. So if you think of like Starry Night, that may have actually been what he was seeing because of how it affected his eyesight. And then digitalis ends up yellowing your eyesight. So if you think about like the haystacks or like daffodils, those are like the toxins in his body were represented in his artwork.
That's really interesting. And I guess that's what you mean, right? When you say that there are a lot of things in the natural world that can kill you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So pretty much everything in the natural world can kill you. Like you could get a tree could fall on you suddenly, you know, all these things. But what people are afraid of are things that they don't encounter often or don't have a lot of practice with. So like spiders, snakes, sharks, those are things that people are afraid of. But if you never go to the beach, you're never going to see a shark. So it's all a matter of how you engage with things or how familiar you are. But the thing that people should be afraid of is like hamburgers or steak, because most Americans die, most people worldwide die from heart attacks and heart disease. It's about 1 in 7 people die, and that's their cause of death. But if you look at something else like getting attacked by a tiger, the chances of that happening to you are astronomically small.
Right. So it's interesting because the things that are most familiar to us, we're least afraid of and probably should be more afraid of.
Yeah, and that is actually your brain tricks you. There's a text panel about this. You have confirmation bias. So like driving in a car is inherently more dangerous than flying, for example. But when you are a passenger in the car, your body assesses risk differently than when you are the driver in the car because you have slightly more control. So your brain is a magical place that tells you all sorts of lies.
So I'm a history professor, so I'm especially intrigued by your historical events noted, and you debunked some old wives' tales and urban myths. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
There's several in there. So this one's not in the exhibit, but I'll just give you this one. Cleopatra, she was, she reclined on a chaise and then she brought an asp to her breast and it pierced her breast and she died of, envenomation is what the story is. But in actuality, she was actually a pretty adept poisoner. So she would mix and make her own poisons, and then she would try them out on various prisoners and slaves. And so probably what ended up happening is she, when it was time for her to do away with herself, she figured out, or she knew which one of the things in her medicine cabinet would be the fastest acting and the least painful. But it's a much more romantic story to tell it the other way.
Yeah. And I understand you mentioned earlier that you have animals on display. Are these live animals?
Yep. So we have some taxidermied animals, but we have some live animals. And it's sort of like a range of things. So we have a Gila monster and a rattlesnake, for example, to show you like different types of envenomation. There are example animals. So when you're envenomated and something like bites you, there are 3 types of options. One is neurotoxic, which affects your nerves. One is hemotoxic, which specifically affects your blood. And the other one is cytotoxic, which generically affects cells. So a Gila monster is neurotoxic and a rattlesnake is hemo and cytotoxic. So looking at that, then we also have things that you wouldn't think of. So for example, we have a garter snake in there. And probably many people on this call played with garter snakes as kids. However, there is something called bioaccumulation. So there is certain species of garter snake that eat certain species of newts, and they bioaccumulate the tetrodotoxin that are in the newts. So they can become secondarily venomous based on that. But it's just not an animal you would think of as being a problem.
Right. That's interesting. Of like you said, that it's something that we're in touch with more frequently, and not knowing about this roundabout way that it can become dangerous.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that in Texas, but there are other places in the United States where it's an issue.
So folks can get tickets at the hmns.org, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole Temple, VP of Education for the Houston Museum of Natural Science, who is our Thursday Family Fun Day guest. We'll have your info in our post after the show, and please go visit the exhibit. Coming up after a quick commercial break, Sharday and I will return with some news and announcements.
When I grow up, I want to work at a school so I can be a teacher.
From classroom to career, we're with you every step. Register for real-world education at hccs.edu.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
All right, well, welcome back. So happy to have you here, still here on Up to the Minute. We're going to close things out with our news and announcements. Want to kick things off with sharing that our GI60 Houston Drama Practicum, with the year to be defined as an art form that speaks volumes, HCC's drama department will, and I apologize, my screen is being dramatic and it is moving faster than I needed to. HCC's drama department will join Screaming Media Productions for a production for GI60 Houston, offering only 2 in-person performances. They will select 1-minute plays from around the world that are brought to the stage by HCC's Summer 2024 Practicum students. It'll be happening 7:30 p.m. Tuesday and Wednesday, July 2nd and 3rd at HCC Stafford's Fine Arts Center. Be sure to check details posted after the show so you can check the show out.
Yes, and also today we have Violence Against Women Act, a virtual conversation going on. This is by HCC's counseling services, and they'll be talking about the Violence Against Women Act. It's open to all faculty, staff, and students. That's happening today, noon to 1 p.m., and check our post after the show for more info.
All right, well, continuing on into July will be our Ableton Live workshops. HCC is continuing the workshops in music theory, creating beats, sampling, remixing with our certified trainer, David Sharmer, who will join us on the show tomorrow. Be sure to come and hear about what will be happening on Saturday, July 16th and 13th at our Spring Branch campus. That'll be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on July 6th and 13th. And registration info will be posted after the show.
In case you didn't know, it's hot in Houston, so stay safe, everyone. This time of year, there are 2 things you can count on in Houston: hurricanes and heat. Make sure you heed safety warnings about both. But weather.gov has just issued a heat advisory for Houston. So remember to stay safe in the summer heat by practicing these tips. Stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water, seek shade, dress light by wearing light and loose-fitting clothing, and limit outdoor activities by avoiding strenuous activities in the heat. So please stay cool and safe this summer. Check our post after the show for more info.
All right, well, fall registration is open, which we take the opportunity to pretty much hype up even early throughout the entire show. Fall registration is open, but our late start summer registration is also ongoing. Like all of HCC courses, we offer our online anytime courses that allow you to pace yourself through the curriculum with deadlines set by your professor. We have online on a schedule, which is online, but you meet at an established time with your professor, as well as a course offering that mixes online and in-person together called hybrid, and of course our traditional in-person courses. To learn more about HCC's programs, fall registration, start dates, and options to cover costs, be sure to visit hccs.edu/apply. Well, coming up tomorrow for Film Friday, as we said, Ableton certified trainer David Sharmer will join us to talk about those July workshops. And we'll also welcome the drama department to discuss its annual GI 60 Houston, which we also discussed during our announcement. And they will be offering selected 1-minute plays from around the world. All right. Thanks so much for joining us for this edition of Up to the Minute. We'll see you next time.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
How prepared is your family if a tornado shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a hurricane? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
That one day at PE when they were like yelling at me and then you just linked arms with me, I don't think you know how much like that helped me. I finally like knew that I had somebody